You would look at me and you would say, you crazy. She is my mama. And I would say, well, prove it. And you would just say, you know what? I just know. I just know I am secure in the fact that I was born. I've seen my birth certificate, and I know that that's my mama. Well, you got to have the same type of faith in the promises of God, so that if somebody comes up and tells you it's not going to happen, you look at them just as crazy. If somebody tells you the situation's not going to turn, you look at them just as ridiculous, because there's proof, there's evidence. I've checked the historical data. God has always brought me out. So therefore, I'm standing here flat-footed saying, I know that God is going to do this. My fresh faith has led me to confidence. This is what Paul did in the midst of his faith fight. He says, I know this. I know this. And then he continues in verse 15. All this is for your benefit, so that the grace that is reaching more and more people may cause thanksgiving to overflow to the glory of God. Then he says in verse 16, he sums it up. He says, therefore, in the midst of everything that we've gone through, in the midst of the faith fight, I don't lose heart. He says, though outwardly we're wasting away, yet inwardly we're being renewed day by day. For our light, compare it, for our light and momentary troubles are achieving for us an eternal glory that far outweighs them all. Paul is saying, I'm willing to deal with the weight of suffering that I'm dealing with now, because I know that the weight of suffering that I'm dealing with cannot compare to the weight of glory that I'm going to eventually experience. I'm willing to go through exactly what I'm experiencing, because I know what God is doing in me now and through me now is nothing compared to what God is ultimately going to do. The weight of the glory of the latter is going to far outweigh the weight of the glory of the former and of the present. He says, look at what he says. He says, so we fix our eyes not on what is seen, faith fight, but on what is unseen. Because what is seen, it'll lie to you. It'll trick you. It'll fool you. What is seen is temporary, but what is unseen is eternal. Faith fight. Faith fight means I focus on what really matters. See, the enemy has a strange way of making temporary pain seem like it's going to last forever. The enemy has a way of lying to you, making you think nothing's going to change. Situation's going to stay the same. That's why people commit suicide. Because people don't see a way out of their temporary problems. This is why people get divorces. Because they don't see a way out of their temporary disagreement. This is why people quit and just walk away and give up, because they don't see an end to what's really temporary. But you want to know the way that you win a faith fight? You're so convinced that you cut yourself off to what is seemingly the obvious. You're so convinced and sure that there is an alternative, that there is a door B. Listen, do you remember the show, thank you, Lord, do you remember the show, Let's Make a Deal? Long time ago, I used to see it in reruns growing up. And Let's Make a Deal was funny, because in Let's Make a Deal, they gave you some type of prize, right? But you were able to make a bargain for that prize based on what were behind the doors. So you were able to go with door number 1, door number 2, door number 3. Now you had this little prize, but you knew that behind one of the doors, what you couldn't see was a bigger prize. So you were willing to take a larger bet. You were willing to take a greater gamble for something that you didn't even see, because you knew what you didn't see was greater than the prize that you did see. And this is the same type of idea. What God is trying to let us know is, don't focus on what's in front of you. I got some things behind some doors that you don't even discern. And if you pay attention to what's in front of you, you're going to miss out on what's behind the doors. So what you need to do is close your eyes, cut off what's in front of you, and just know that there's something better behind the door. Just know that there's something greater behind the door, and don't throw in the towel for something that's less than what's behind your door. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. How many guys believe that God has something behind the door for you, and all you need to do is keep the faith? How many of you guys believe that God is able to open doors that no man can shut, and he's able to close doors that no man can open? And if you keep your faith, if you're convinced that God is going to take you from faith to faith, glory to glory, then one day that door is going to open, and you're going to see that what I had to endure in order to get here was worth it. The pain that I had to endure in order to get here was worth it. The tears that I had to cry in order to get here was worth it, because what was behind the door, which was what I couldn't see, was far greater than everything that I could see. High five somebody and tell them, wait for the door. 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 You gonna settle for your door prize when God has the grand prize for you, if you're convinced that by faith you'll walk into it. Wait for the door. Don't let the enemy cheat you. Don't let the enemy shortchange you. Have the faith that you need to know that God has already worked it out in unseen realms. See, I don't know about you. I don't know about you this morning. But I look at the number of things going on in my life that I'm not 100% sure what the outcome is going to be. And each one of them in my life could cause me to have some sleepless nights. Each one of the things going on in my life that I don't really necessarily know what the outcome is going to be could cause me to agonize and to be so nervous that I don't know what to do. But let me tell you something. Number one, I realize historically that, wait a minute, I've been here before. I've been at a point where I was praying, God, I don't know what you're going to do, but you're going to do something. I've been here before. And he's always showed up every single time. I was out of work for 6 months. 6 months, I wasn't receiving any type of substantial or significant income. So that was month to month to month of me getting with my wife saying, look, we don't know how it's going to happen, but one thing we know is it's going to happen. And month after month after month, lo and behold, God always did something. Month after month after month, lo and behold, we were always able to say, he did it this month, so that means he's going to do it next month. So I'm able to stand on that historical data. And you know what? Because I experienced that, I'm now convinced. See, you can't tell me now that God's not going to make a way. You can't tell me that God's not going to open up doors. I'm going to look at you like a fool if you try to say that my faith in God is misplaced, because I've seen him do it over and over. Is there anybody in here that's got the same testimony? Nobody can persuade you otherwise. Nobody can get you to doubt, because you've seen God do it over and over. Therefore, I wake up with fresh faith. Therefore, I wake up every morning with faith for today, saying, okay, God, you didn't do it yesterday, so I just believe you're going to do it today. Okay, God, you didn't do it last week, so I believe you're going to do it this week. I'm not going to allow my faith to get old and stale. Let me tell you something. If God didn't do it for you 3 weeks ago, then guess what? That just gives him the opportunity to do it today. And if God doesn't do it today, then wake up and say, God, you're going to do it today then. then if God doesn't do it that day, you can wake up the next day and say, God, now's your opportunity. The moment that you stop believing God is going to do it is the moment that you stop looking at your door. I'm telling you, it's a faith fight. But these principles, they'll help you. And ultimately, I'm clear about my so that's. I'm clear. I'm clear that it got rough for me as a youth pastor so that God can make me a senior pastor. I'm rough. I realize that finances and expenses got way too high in California so that we could come to Georgia. I realize my so that's. Can you think back over your life right now? Think back to every horrible situation, every regret, everything that you look back with a little bit of pain and a little bit of discomfort. Look back over the totality of your life, and I guarantee that there's a purpose behind it. I guarantee that there's a reason behind it. I guarantee that God was trying to build something in you, and God was trying to do something in you, and God was trying to grow something in you. Stop thinking that it happened for no reason. Stop thinking that God was just trying to be cruel. No, God was trying to get you to your next level, and in order for him to get you to your next level, you had to go through hell and high water. I wish you would be able to realize your so that's. God is able to use the worst tragedy. Joyce Myers was molested for years as a little girl, and it's awful when somebody gets molested, but now she's able to stand up as an adult and say, I went through that so that I could stand before millions of women and preach the gospel of Jesus Christ and be a shoulder for women to lead on. So even in the worst scenario and situation of her life, she saw her so bad. So it helps me to fight this fight of faith. Because ultimately, if I lose my faith, then I lose it all. Everybody stand to your feet.